Tonight's lesson, Everyday Math 11.3, is on the volume of cylinders. So we've already talked about how to find the area of a circle as well as the area of rectangles, and we've also talked about how to find the volume of prisms. So tonight we're going to put some pieces together. So let's first start with this question right here. Marble games are often played inside a circle whose diameter is 7 feet. What is the area of the playing surface? Write your solution as a number sentence. So I want you to just pause the video and I want you to pretend that this circle here has a diameter of 7 feet and calculate what your playing area would be, and then come back to the video. Alright, so assuming that you have come back to the video, let's go ahead and solve this. Okay, so we know that the area equals pi times radius squared. And just as a little reminder, that radius squared doesn't mean the radius times 2, but it means the radius times itself. So if we look over here and we saw that the diameter, the entire distance all the way across the circle is 7 feet, we know that, let's see, grab this right here. If I pick any spot from the center going out to the edge of the circle at any point around the circle, that distance is going to be the radius, which is exactly half of the diameter. So even though we weren't given the diameter, the radius, we could easily figure it out because we were given the diameter of 7 feet. So let's go ahead and plug in how we would write this out. So it would look like this. A equals, and we know what pi is, so we're going to use the approximation of 3.14, and then we're going to multiply 3.5 times 3.5 because that means the same as the radius squared, or the radius to the second power. Alright, so let's go ahead. I'm just going to put A equals, and then let's just use this calculator and figure it out. So let's see here. 3.14 times 3.5 times 3.5. And I get 38.465. 38.465. And now most of the time you're going to be asked to round your answer. So if you get an answer like this one, let's round it to the nearest tenth. So we'll write in one more time, A equals, and we'll say 38, and round it to the nearest tenth would be 38.5, which is the same as saying 38 and a half. And then we know that because we're talking about square units, this is where we have to be really careful to make sure that we add that. I'm going to just find the black pen. There we go. It would be 38 and a half square feet. Okay, and so right here, this would be the answer. So the area of our playing field, if the diameter of the circle is 7 feet, would be 38 and a half square feet. Alright, so what is the formula for finding the volume of a cylinder? The actual formula is the same as finding the volume of a prism, no matter what kind of prism it is. So the volume is the area of the base times the height. So the only difference that we're having in this lesson in some of the previous lessons when finding volume is that the area of the base is going to be calculated differently because this time the base is a circle, so it's not a triangle or a rectangle but a circle. So then we've got to go back to that opening exercise where we looked at finding the area of a circle, and we know that the formula for finding the area of a circle is area equals 3.14, which is what we're going to use for pi, times the radius squared. So we know, looking at this particular cylinder, so we start at the bottom, that the diameter of the circle is 12 centimeters. Oops, I just noticed something here. So let's change this so we have the same units. This should be centimeters. There we go. All right, so let's go ahead and plug in the details. If we know that the diameter is 12, then the radius is going to be 6. So let's plug it in. And I'm going to grab my eraser and like magic, there we go. Let's see if it comes in. Oh, I think it erased my pi symbol. Okay, so we'll draw that back in. There we go. So the volume of the cylinder is the area of the base, and I just plugged in the formula right here. So this is just the formula for the area of a circle. There we go, which is pi times radius squared, and then times 10, which is the height of the cylinder. So then the next step, we'll just plug in the parts that we know. Okay, so the next step is we plug in the information that we know about the area of a circle. So the volume for a cylinder is equal to the area of the circle, which is 3.14, the approximation for pi, times 6 times 6. And the reason that we multiply times 6 is that in our formula it tells us it's the radius squared, which means the radius times itself. And then once we have that calculated, we multiply by 10, which is the height of the cylinder. So let's go ahead and figure out what it would be. So I'm going to use the calculator again, and we're going to start 3.14, which is pi, and we're going to multiply that times, and I could say times 6 times 6, but since we know that 6 times 6 is 36, I'll just multiply by 36. And that is going to give me 113.04. And so if I multiply that by 10, all I need to do is move the decimal over one place to the right. So I'm going to go ahead and put in that my answer is 1130.4. And because we're talking about volume, this time, I'm going to just scooch that up so it's in place. This time I am going to be working with cubic units instead of square units. So let me put that in my answer. So 1130.4 or 1,130.4 cubic centimeters. That would be the volume of this cylinder. All right, so we're going to find the volume of this triangular prism. The base of the triangle is 6 feet and the height is 4, as you can see. It's kind of pointing out to you a little b here, and here's the height of the triangle. We're actually using the triangle as the base of the triangular prism, even though it looks like it's sitting on this rectangle. It's just really difficult if I were to sit it on its triangle base for you to see what I'm talking about. So just assume that the triangle is the base of the prism. So we know that the formula for the volume of a rectangular or a triangular prism is just big B times H, which stands for the area of the base times the height. But in this case, in order to calculate the area of the base, we need to know the formula for the area of a triangle, which is different from the formula for the area of a rectangle. And so we know there's two different ways that we can write this formula out. And one of them is 1/2 times base times height, or area equals base times height divided by 2. It's the same thing. So let's go ahead and plug in the numbers then. So over here, I think I have it. Where are you? Ah, there we go. All right, so we're plugging that in, and it would be area equals base, which is 6, times height, which is 4, divided by 2. And therefore our answer for the area of that triangle is 12 square feet, because 24 divided by 2 is 12. So now that we know the area of the base, we can just plug it into the formula for volume. So if we plug these numbers in, we have volume is equal to the area of the base, which we calculated to be 12, and then I just wrote in the height of this prism, and it's 36. So we're going to go ahead and do that calculation. I'll use the calculator. Oops, clear that. It should be 12 times 36 and that's going to give us a volume of, see if I can get back in there. There we go. 432. And then we need to write the correct unit. So we look up here, we're talking about feet. So it's going to be feet, but a certain, we have to look at our measurements, our correct units rather. And in this case, it is going to be, to use the pen, cubic units because we're talking about volume. Okay, so one of those things you have to pay attention to because sometimes you'll be asked to, for example, give what the area is of the base, and if you give it in cubic units, that's incorrect. Ultimately, we're trying to find the volume, which is three-dimensional, but for the area, it's still going to be in square units. So that's our final answer for the volume of the triangular prism is 432 cubic feet. Make sure you write down some questions that you have, and please make sure that you do write down the examples and how to arrive at the answer for each in order for your notes to be complete. All right, see you tomorrow.